Hi everyone, and welcome to today's video where we're going to be doing a guide for Hungary for EU4 1.33 France. Now let me start off by saying that this guide was recorded in EU4 1.32 origins, but the guide is still completely valid and still completely relevant for the latest update. The only difference in this guide is that you're not going to sell titles before you seize land. So after you do all the estate stuff, don't sell titles, but seize land. That's because we can't sell titles. Everything else is completely the same. Enjoy! So Hungary is a nation located in Central Eastern Europe, and of course everyone knows about Hungary, but I do think it is a less popular and more underrated nation in comparison to its neighbors, with the Ottomans, Poland, Bohemia, and Austria all being more popular nations and more powerful in the hands of the AI as well. Of course, if you haven't played Hungary, you know what usually happens to them. If they end up getting allied to Austria, they can fall under a PU under them, and then they are, well, an Austrian junior partner for the rest of the game until they get annexed, and if they don't link up with Austria, usually they get eaten up by the Ottomans, Poland, Bohemia, and, well, Austria. But make no mistake, Hungary in the hands of the player can be an extremely powerful nation and can go on to dominate its neighbors, which usually go on to dominate Hungary. And before we begin, if you enjoyed this video, don't hesitate to leave a like, it really helps out a lot, and if you want to see more guides and more EU4 videos in general, definitely hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on anything. Let's take a look at what we need to do as Hungary. So this is our situation in 1444. We have two armies right here, 7-2 and 6-3, and a bunch of forts, and of course we don't have a ruler just yet. We're in an interregnum, which means we can't declare wars right away. But don't worry, soon we'll get an event where we're gonna get a really awesome ruler. But before that, we need to do a few other things, like go into our estates and summon the Diet. You can pick whichever agenda is best for you. Then we're going to give the clergy religious state and clerical advisory council, along with religious diplomats. We're going to give the nobility primacy of the nobility, increased levies, aristocratic councillors, and we're going to give the burghers land of commerce, patronage of the arts, commercial advisory board, and indebted to the burghers. Then we're gonna sell titles and seize land. Next, we're gonna go into our missions, and as we can see, our mission over here tells us that we either need to ally Poland or rival them and have a bigger army than them. And then we go on to get claims, blah blah blah, control Moldavia. We can even get a restoration of Union CB on Poland. Now I know in some other guides as Hungary you start off by rushing everything, no sea being Byzantium, which is a strategy I don't really like, conquering all of these guys, spewing Bohemia and Poland really fast, and honestly as Hungary, an experienced player can have all of this in the first 50 years. But as you guys know, my guides aren't really meant for experienced players. If you play like that, you don't really need a guide. So as always, my guides are meant for less experienced players and newer players as well. So we won't be doing the strategy of rushing everything, getting all the PUs right away, and this is a slow and steady campaign which will get you on top eventually. So as this mission says, we either need to rival Poland or ally them, and of course we are gonna rival them. For now, we are only gonna rival Poland, no one else. So that's one part of the mission fulfilled, and we also need to have a bigger army than them. So we're just simply gonna hire the free company right away. It doesn't matter where. Once this free company is recruited, we will be able to take this mission right here. We are making some money at the start, but we can't afford 3 level 1 advisors, so get whichever level 1 admin advisor you want. I'm gonna get this tax guy, get a diplo rep or improve relations or a spy network level 1 guy. I do have a diplo rep guy, and get a morale, discipline, fort defense, or manpower guy for your mill guy. I'm gonna get this discipline guy. Now it's also time for some alliances. Of course, we are gonna ally Austria as always, and these nations that I have right here are pretty much the most common nations you're gonna get, and I do recommend allying Austria, Aragon, and Milan. All 3 of them should be available at the start. Sometimes you can even get France right at the start as well. But there we go, I'm gonna ally Austria and Royal Mary Aragon, and later when the diplomats are back, I'm gonna do the same with Milan. Now we're gonna take these 2 armies and put them down here, and we're gonna rearrange them later and turn off all our forts for now. Now it's time to wait for the event where we get a ruler. And there we go, as soon as the free company recruits, you will be able to take the mission Old Alliances. It gives us permaclaims on these 2 regions right here. I got this from an estate agenda, by the way. Now, as you all know, Moldavia does start off guaranteed by Poland, and later they get the event where they can choose to become a march under Poland, a march under us, or remain independent. They will usually pick to become a march under Poland, but if you get Hungary, that's a nice bonus. The strategy doesn't rely on getting Moldavia though. It's just a bonus. Now, Hungary does start off with plus 20% cavalry combat ability as a tradition, which is super powerful. Of course, we're not going to be getting rid of cavalry. Hungary is a pretty rich nation, but we are going to rearrange our army for a bit just in the early game now, and we'll go more heavy on the cavalry later. So I do recommend getting rid of 1 cavalry regiment and getting 3 more infantry regiments on your main army. And there we go, this is what your diplomatic situation should approximately look like. I have Austria, Milan, and Aragon. You'll probably have them as well, but mainly the nation you want to ally is Austria. The other 2 guys are up to you. And there we go, this is the event that we were waiting for, where we get János Hunyadi as a regent or keep the current council. Of course, we are gonna get János Hunyadi as a regent. He's a 455, pretty strong, and we don't want to pick this to remain in an interregnum. So there we go, elect János Hunyadi as a regent, and boom, now we have a ruler, which means we can declare our first war. So as soon as you get that, just activate your forts and place your armies on the border of Wallachia. Now at this point you may want to check and see if the Ottomans have guaranteed Wallachia. It does sometimes happen. They can sometimes guarantee Wallachia or Serbia or both of them. In my case, that doesn't seem to have happened, but if they did guarantee Wallachia, just restart. It's only been like a year, so it's really no big deal. And right before this war, we're gonna add 2 other rivals. I recommend rivaling Serbia and Bohemia as well. And of course, you should hire a general for your main army. I don't recommend putting this guy in charge of your army, even though he's super powerful, because he's also a really good leader as well. So there we go, I'm just gonna hire a general right there for the main army, and I'm gonna declare on Wallachia. It doesn't matter what you declare for, because we're gonna vassalize them. And in my case, they're allied to Serbia. Now, if they're allied to anyone else except for Bosnia, don't do anything to them. Don't co-belligerent them, just white peace them. But if they are allied to Bosnia, which can sometimes happen, then you're gonna co-belligerent Bosnia as well and vassalize Bosnia too. But in my case, that hasn't happened. They're only allied to Serbia, and I'm just gonna white peace Serbia because we're gonna fight them pretty soon as well. So there we go, it's time to declare. During this point, you can start currying favors with some of your allies, like Austria. And there we go, Romans invasion just happened for me, and in my case, Moldavia did choose to become independent, actually to remain independent. In your case, most likely they're gonna become a march under Poland, but if you're lucky, you might have gotten them as a march yourself, which is a great bonus. And when you do beat up Wallachia, of course, like I said, we are gonna be vassalizing them and taking all their money. If you fought Bosnia as well, you should vassalize Bosnia as well. I didn't do that, so it's just Wallachia for me, and like I said, I did white peace Serbia. And that's our first war done. Now we have Wallachia as a subject. Once you do that, you will be able to take the mission Control Wallachia, which gives us permaclaims on everything Serbia owns, as well as this Venetian province down here. Once you do beat up Wallachia and vassalize them, it is time to chill for a year or two, and then get ready to fight Bosnia or Serbia. Of course, I'm not fighting Serbia because I do have a truce with them from this little war right here, and I'm not fighting Bosnia right now because they're allied to Serbia as well. So I'm actually gonna wait for this truce right here so I can declare on Serbia directly. But after you're done with this, fight one of these 2 nations over here. If you vassalize Bosnia, you can also get their cores back from Herzegovina. If you haven't vassalized them, just conquer them. Like I said in my case, I'll be waiting for a bit. Now, another thing to note about Hungary is that our heir, Ladislas Posthumous von Habsburg here, is also Austria's heir. This is the same guy right here that us and Austria have. Of course, this guy, he's just a regent for Ladislas Posthumous, as his title, of course, says. So, once Ladislas here turns 15, we're gonna have to either decide if he becomes our ruler as well and we fall under a personal union under Austria, or if we want to remain independent. But that's still a few years away. As Hungary, we do also start off with a gold mine over here in Hunt, and we're probably going to be getting another one down here in Kosovo. Of course, this will be our main source of income, at least in the early game, so we do want to start deving it up immediately. So we are going to activate the Encourage Development State Edict in Slovakia and start deving Hunt up to 10. It is going to be expensive since it is Highlands, but it is something we are going to have to do. We're not going to be doing much with our Diplo points anyway. At this point, if you can hire an inflation reduction guy, you should. And there we go, in my case, my truce with Serbia has just ended, so it is time to declare on them for the conquest of Kosovo, which is the gold mine down here. If they still have it, of course. In your case, they might have been gobbled up a bit by the Ottomans, which is fine. You're just gonna take whatever else they have. So I'm gonna declare for Kosovo right here and co-belligerent Bosnia as well. I'm just gonna white peace all of these other guys over here. And there we go, that's our second war, either versus Bosnia or versus Serbia. By the way, I'm not fighting Naples, I'm just helping Aragon get them back. Now, of course, since I am in this war versus Byzantium, I could totally vassalize them or conquer them and then release them as a subject to make fighting the Ottomans easier, but of course this may not be realistic for most of you guys following this guide, so I actually will be just white piecing Byzantium and not doing anything with them. Now that I've defeated Bosnia in this war, I will be vassalizing them since I did co-belligerent them. This is something you should do as well if you co-belligerented them, or of course you could conquer these lands yourself, it really doesn't matter. And there we go, Ladislaus Posthumus just turned 15, so it is a sort of time for him to get on our throne as well. Or is it? This is the event Matthias Corvinus, where we need to elect Matthias as a king, we remove Austria as a historical friend, and get that guy who's a 456, and we also get a regency council until he becomes of age, basically, this guy, he leaves. Or a German king would be best, where that guy, Ladislaus Posthumus, becomes our ruler, and we become a junior partner under Austria, and we also inherit Hungary. Of course, we are gonna choose this first option and choose to remain independent. This will give Austria a restoration of Union CB on us, and they will dislike us for a period of time, but it is what we are gonna take. And there we go, we'll have this Regency Council for a while until this guy becomes of age. And there you go, once you do beat up Serbia, you are gonna take everything from them, everything that you can. Like I said, they may have lost something to the Ottomans, and if you're fighting Bosnia, you can phalanx them as well, or vassalize them, it's up to you. They do have cores on these two provinces over here, which aren't that valuable, but you could still do it. In my case, I did choose to vassalize them, and I am gonna take everything from Serbia, along with all their money. And there we go, in 1 to 3 wars, you should have all 3 of these guys over here. Once you do annex Serbia, you will be able to take the mission Control Serbia. We gain some Diplo points and some bonuses in those provinces, as well as permaclaims on these areas right here. Now that this war is done, I'll chill a bit, since I'm in a Regency Council as well, and I did just get some burgher loans so I can build some buildings, mainly marketplaces in all the center of trade provinces, like Pest for example, Posoni over here, and maybe even newly acquired ones, Belgrade down here, Torda too, and you could build some in your subjects too if they have any, like the one in Wallachia over here. You can also build a church or two, why not? By this point I have also devved up Hunt up to 10, and I will be deving Kosovo up to 10 as well shortly. And for your tier 2 government reform, you should of course take Strength and Noble Privileges. Once you have 2 vassals, you could give the nobility strong duchies or the nobility integration policy. It's up to you, it's not something you have to do. I did give them strong duchies in my case. Now that the regency has ended and this guy is in charge over here, I will be declaring on Herzegovina. If you have Bosnia as a vassal, reconquer their cores. If you took this for yourself, take this for yourself as well. By the way, I'm not fighting Burgundy, I'm helping Austria in that Burgundy-Liège war. And now that the Burgundy-Liège war ended, Austria also ended their alliance with me, which is pretty expected. Austria will become domineering towards you once you don't choose to get Ladislaus Posthumus, but once their CB expires, you should be able to ally them again. And there we go, now that I've beaten up Herzegovina, I will be giving this to Bosnia. Like I said, if you vassalize Bosnia, give it to them. If not, take it for yourself. Or alternatively, if you don't want to get Austria back as your ally again, or if you don't think you can do it, you could try and push for the French alliance during this time, which is super possible. It is very easy to ally France as Hungary. Get a Diplorep guy, improve relations with them, you can first royal marry them, and then you will be able to ally them easily. Once you do take Admin Tech 5 for your first idea group as Hungary, I do recommend taking Aristocratic Ideas, a very powerful idea group that is definitely underutilized and underrated in my opinion, especially with such a powerful cav-heavy nation such as Hungary. Aristocratic Ideas give us minus 10% cavalry cost and another plus 10% cavalry combat ability, Miltech minus 10%, super strong, monthly autonomy change and yearly absolutism, pretty good, and plus 33% national manpower, which is super awesome, army tradition decay, a diplomat, and all the merc stuff, and the leader siege is great as well. So all around, an awesome idea group to pick for your first mill idea group, especially as Hungary. After this point, you can start focusing on mill. Once you do get that heir Matthias Corvinus, and once you do have an heir for him as well, I just got this guy from an event and he's pretty good, you will be able to take the mission, the Hungarian Succession. it gives us some further claims in these areas that Bohemia owns up here. Of course, once you do reach Tech 5 in all levels, you should start deving Kosovo up to 10 as well. I have already stated it, and by the way, I've lowered autonomy everywhere. I don't know if I say that enough, maybe I assume that people already know it, but make sure to lower autonomy whenever you can. This increases manpower, tax, production, goods produced, everything in every single province. Lower autonomy whenever you can. Sure, lots of rebels will pop out and you will fight lots of rebels, but hey, that's just more army tradition. So make sure to lower autonomy whenever you can. Right now, I'm making 15 ducats a month. That's pretty good. We're going to be making even more once we dev Kosovo up to 10. Once you've dealt with all these Balkan minor nations over here, it is time to set our sights on Venice, namely the provinces located over here, some of which Croatia has scores on. Now, the best time to declare on Venice is when they're fighting the Ottomans, and that happens when the Ottomans declare on Albania, and of course, because Venice guarantees Albania, Venice will be fighting the Ottomans as well. So that is the perfect time that you should declare on Venice. However, if you don't want to wait around for that, or if you feel powerful enough to take them on yourself, you can totally go for it. In my case, I do think I'm strong enough to defeat them without them being involved in the Ottoman War, so I'll simply be declaring a war on them now. So it is time to declare for the reconquest of Spalato. And once you get around 50 to 60 war score versus Venice, it is time to piece them out because we can take everything that we want. So in this war versus Venice, I recommend giving these two cores back to Croatia, taking the province of Kataro for yourself, taking the province of Istria for yourself, and then getting war reps and some money. Of course, this may be super annoying because, as we all know, you won't be able to siege down Venice. It is super annoying, and you won't be able to siege down their allies like the Knights or Cyprus or some other island nations. But that is really what we want from Venice in this first war. The cores back to Croatia and these two provinces for ourselves. You could even take Durazzo if you can, or maybe even Corfu. It's up to you. But these four are the most important ones. But around the 1460s, Austria's CB on you to enforce a personal union should have expired, and let's see right here, it has expired in my case, and when it does expire, they will no longer be domineering towards you, which means you can re-ally Austria. This is my relations right now, Milan, Austria, and Denmark, since Aragon did get PU'd by Castile. I can also probably ally France, but I didn't do it because I wanted Austria more, although I am gonna royal marry France just in case. At this point, you can also start annexing Wallachia. Once you do have a bunch of money, I do recommend starting to build churches, even though they're not that powerful. I have already built one in my capital of Pest, and we do need 5 to continue down this branch of the mission tree, so I will start building 4 more churches in whichever provinces, maybe this one, this one, this one, and this one. Once you do finish up with Venice and re-ally Austria, it is time to continue our expansion into Bohemia. Now, most likely, Austria is gonna be rival towards Bohemia, in which case they won't defend them even though they're a member of the empire. And let's see, in my case, that is true. Austria won't defend them, and they do have quite a lot of reasons. They're even domineering, which means they do have actually the restoration of Union CB on Bohemia. Now, by this point, Bohemia may actually already be a junior partner under Austria, in which case you're just gonna have to leave Bohemia for later, or break your alliance with Austria and ally France and get their help to fight Austria and Bohemia. You will want to make Austria release Bohemia though, so you will be able to PU Bohemia later yourself. If Bohemia is a junior partner under Austria, you will get perma claims from this mission right here instead of a restoration of Union CB. And there we go. In my case, as we can see, Austria won't defend them, and they're actually even allied to France, which is pretty unusual, but luckily for me, they won't defend them either, so it is time to declare on Bohemia. If you can't do this for some reason, like I said, break your alliance with Austria and then fight them with the help of France, but if you can't do this, you should look to expand elsewhere or just chill for a bit until you can do it. So it is time to declare for the conquest of whatever I'm going to declare for this province, even though I won't be taking it. What you do want to focus on in this first war versus Bohemia is their subjects over here, Glogau and Opole, mainly the Silesia area. By this point, I have also devved Kosovo up to 10. And once you do build 5 churches, you will be able to take the mission, fund the monasteries. And I can also take a strong economy in my case as well. And the Biblioteca Corviana. And the great city of Buda. Speaking of the Biblioteca Corviana, we do start off with 2 monuments as Hungary. This one right here in our capital, which at tier 3 gives us minus 5% idea cost and some institution bonuses as well, pretty good. And the Brand Castle, which is at tier 1 in Kirofold, which at tier 3 gives us some defensiveness and national garrison growth. They're both not that good monuments, although this one might be nice with the minus 5% idea cost. you won't really be focusing on upgrading either of them. And once you've defeated Bohemia, this is what you should take from them. Like I said earlier, I recommend taking the entire state of Silesia over here. You can also get war reps and all their money as well, and that's our first war versus Bohemia done. It will make quite a bit of aggressive expansion, but a coalition won't form. Now it's time to chill a bit and recover. Of course, once you do take 5 provinces from Bohemia, you will be able to take the mission Bohemian Borderlands, which will give us a restoration of Union CB on Bohemia. Now that is gonna generate a ton of aggressive expansion, and of course this will only happen if Bohemia is independent. That's why I said, if Austria has them, you should make Austria release them, and then you can PU them yourself. Because if they're a junior partner under Austria, you'll only get perma-claims on whatever is left of their provinces. So, whether it's perma-claims or a restoration of Union CB, don't take it now, because it will expire. Aggressive expansion is super high, and we need to let it die down almost to 0, so we'll be able to PU Bohemia. Otherwise, we'll get a giant coalition consisting of the entirety of the HRE. For your Tier 3 government reform, I recommend taking centralized bureaucracy. While you're chilling, you should also focus on completing certain Croatian missions. Croatia's mission tree does have a branch right here. This mission right here, Ghosty Guest, and Renovate Zagreb, which will spawn a level 2 center of trade in Zagreb. To fulfill this mission, we need to dev 3 provinces in Slavonia, up to 10, which are basically these 3 provinces right here, and then we need to build a bunch of buildings in their capital of Zagreb so they can spawn a center of trade. So you should focus on doing that. At this point, you can also get some light ships going in the provinces that you've conquered from Venice and in Croatia's provinces as well, in order to protect trade in Ragusa. At this point, once you've fought Bohemia, Venice, and the small Balkan guys, you should start spying on the Ottomans in order to get some claims on them. Alternatively, you could try and fulfill the mission Anatolian Threat, where you need to have 3 forts on the border with the Ottoman Empire. At the start, of course, you will only have 1 in Temesh over here, but once you annex Wallachia, you will have 2 with the one in Gheorghiu, and alternatively, if you fought Albania, you could have 3 from this province, or you could just simply build one, which I do recommend doing in this province right here. At this point, I have also allied France. You should be able to keep both France and Austria as allies. They shouldn't break the alliance because you're allied to one of them or the other. And Austria did just declare a restoration of Union War on Bohemia, which means they will get them as a junior partner. So in my case, after I've used Austria to help me versus the Ottomans or someone like that, I will break my alliance with them, force them to release Bohemia, so I can PU them later. Now that I have annexed Wallachia and I have built a fort over here, I am able to take the mission Anatolian Threat, which gives me perma-claims on the Bulgaria and Silistria areas. And this is perfect for when we're gonna fight the Ottomans, which will be when they fight the Mamluks. So make sure to have the Ottomans as a country of special interest. You do that by clicking on a province, right-clicking on their flag right here and selecting this, and make sure to also do the same with the Mamluks, mark them both as countries of special interest, so you gotta pop up when they fight a war. And right now, after we've dealt with the Balkan miners, Venice and Bohemia, it is time to chill a bit and wait for a perfect opportunity to declare on either the Ottomans or Moldavia. That's right, we do need to get Moldavia for the mission, well, control Moldavia. Now, you may have been lucky, like I said at the start, and gotten them randomly from the March event, but if not, we are gonna have to fight Poland and get Moldavia from them. That is because when we get Moldavia, and when we get more powerful in development terms than Poland, we do gain a restoration of Union CB on them. Alternatively, you could not be bigger than Poland, but you do need to own these provinces right here, which I think is the worst way to do the mission. So right now, we're just chilling, improving our economy. I'm constructing some buildings right now. As we can see, you should be making a ton of money by now, and we're waiting to declare on either Poland to take Moldavia or the Ottomans to take some stuff here. For your second idea group as Hungary, I recommend taking diplomatic or influence ideas. This is because we will be playing with subjects pretty heavily for the entirety of the game. You may have some vassals over here like I did. You are going to be getting Bohemia, you are going to be getting Poland, perhaps even Lithuania, Danzig and Moldavia, all of those nations. We'll be creating other subjects over here in the Balkans to reconquer their cores from the Ottomans, such as Bulgaria and Byzantium, and you may even go on to establish subjects elsewhere. That's why I recommend diplomatic or influence ideas. Each of them have their perks, but I do think diplomatic is better than influence because of the province war score cost, the diplotech cost, lower impact on stability, and improved relations. It's an all-around great idea group for single player, probably the best. But if you want to go with influence, totally go for it. I do recommend diplomatic slightly more. And once you do feel strong and ready enough to declare on Poland to steal Moldavia, you should do it. I was waiting so long in my case because I had low Diplo rep from annexing Wallachia, so now Austria will help me out, whereas previously they didn't want to help me out. But in this war, we're simply going to be taking Moldavia. That's it. You can either feed it to Wallachia if you still have Wallachia, you can steal them as a subject for yourself, basically make Poland transfer them to you, or you could simply annex all of their provinces. It really is up to you what you're gonna do in the peace deal, but the only thing we want is Moldavia. So it is time to declare for the conquest of this province right here and call in Austria. They will help you out 99% of the time. And once you have enough war score versus Poland and Lithuania and Moldavia and Danzig apparently, which I had to get around 80 to full annex Moldavia, it is time to, well, full annex Moldavia. And that's the only thing you're gonna take from that war. No money, no war reps, nothing else. Once you do that, you will be able to take the mission Control Moldavia, and you might be able to take the mission Weaken Poland. Like I said earlier, for this mission to be fulfilled, we either need to own 9 provinces in some of these areas right here, or we need to have more dev than Poland. The better way to do it is by getting more dev than Poland, and obviously you shouldn't be too far off from them. I'm only about 20 dev behind them. That's only 1 or 2 provinces or a little bit of deving, so we will be able to take the mission that gives us a restoration of Union CB on them later. Once you get some provinces over here, or once you've had Moldavia and annexed them, the Cossack estate will show up for you. As we all know, the Cossacks are a pretty powerful estate, and here's what you should give to them once you get it. You should give them recruit Cossack leaders for yearly army tradition and land leader shock, and you should also give them prime herding rights for plus 25% manpower from all steppe provinces and minus 50 tax income from the same steppe provinces. And like I said, you should keep an eye on when the Ottomans declare on the Mamluks, and if this is way earlier than it's happening to me, of course you should declare on the Ottomans as well. Alternatively, you could wait until you PU Poland and Lithuania, and in that case you'll be unstoppable and you'll be able to declare on the Ottomans whenever you want. But you can declare in a situation like this, or wait to get the PUs. In my case, I don't think I'm strong enough to take on the Ottomans just with Austria, so I'll be declaring on them later when I get Poland and Lithuania as well. Once you've completed the missions for Croatia, basically the deving of these 3 provinces up to 10, and once you've built a bunch of buildings in their capital, a level 2 center of trade will spawn there, and that means that these 2 missions are completed. After this point, you can totally start integrating Croatia. And by around the 1490s, your game should look a little something like this. Basically, we started off as Hungary and waited for our ruler to come into place so we can start declaring wars. We fought Wallachia, we fought Bosnia, we fought Serbia, we fought Herzegovina, and took care of all of the Balkan miners in our immediate region. And you may have also even gotten Moldavia early if they chose to become a march under you, which of course by now you should have annexed them. And of course, we've kickstarted both branches of the mission tree, which give us a PU over Bohemia and over Poland as well, and after this point you should be ready to PU both of those nations and get Lithuania and Danzig along with Poland, and maybe get some Bohemian subjects along with Bohemia. Of course, like I said at the start, if Austria does have Bohemia as a junior partner like it is in my situation over here, you are gonna have to fight Austria first, make them abandon the PU over Bohemia before you take the mission to gain a PU over them, because as we can see right now, this mission, it doesn't give me a personal Union CB over Bohemia because they're already a junior partner. But of course, it will be easy to defeat Austria because you will have other allies such as France. Like I said, it is easy to get France, and of course you will probably have Poland and Lithuania before you get Bohemia, and after that you should be PUing all of these nations because we have already taken lands here that give us the mission to get a PU over Bohemia, and we have taken land down here which gives us the mission to get a PU over Poland. Of course, like I said earlier, you will need to get a little bit more dev than Poland, which isn't hard at all. It's just 10 dev in my case, and it'll be pretty similar in your case too. By this point, you should be fielding a massive army. I have my main army over here, 24-8-7. You should go pretty heavy on Cav since Hungary is such a powerful nation to go Cav heavy on. I do have plus 40% cavalry combat ability right now. Of course, you could bump these 8 up to even more, maybe even 12. That would be pretty great. And I do also have a tiny little free company over here to help out with sieges. Yes, I do have quite a lot of forts during this time in my situation. This is an unusual amount of forts, and what I recommend doing is destroying these forts up here. Once you take care of Poland and Lithuania, and once you beat up the Ottomans once or twice, you can start destroying these 3, and then these 2, and then everything else down the line. But I'm still keeping all of my forts in my case, just because I don't have Poland and Lithuania yet, and because I haven't fought the Ottomans yet. Speaking of the Ottomans, like I said earlier, you will be fighting them either when they go to war versus the Mamluks, like right now in my situation, or if you don't feel strong enough to do that, you should get Poland and Lithuania first, and after you have them, well, you're unstoppable and you can declare on the Ottomans pretty much wherever you want. Call in Austria, call in Aragon if you still have them, and it'll be a super easy war, even though you'll be fighting the Ottomans at the peak of their power. And after this point, you will continue to expand in all the same directions we've been expanding. Like I said, you'll PU these guys, PU Bohemia. Later, you also get a mission to PU Austria as well. And you can even enter the HRE after you PU Bohemia, which you should do. You can try and go for HRE Emperor. That would be awesome as well. And you'll continue to expand in the Ottomans as well and dominate the entire eastern portion of Europe. Push into Anatolia too. And pretty much the world is your oyster once you PU these two guys over here. By this point, you should have a pretty strong economy. I'm making 10 ducats a month right now with everything up. If I lower army maintenance and turn off forts, I'm making 21 ducats a month, which is pretty good. But like I said, we do have a lot of forts which bring our income down, and I am running higher level advisors, which also brings our income down. But you shouldn't have any trouble with money, since you should have Hunt over here up to 10 production and Kosovo down here up to 10 production as well. Alternatively, you could even steal Cheb from Bohemia, although I don't think it's really needed. When expanding into the Ottomans, you can of course release Bulgaria, which does have a ton of cores on these provinces over here, and use them to reconquer their cores later. You can of course release Byzantium as well, reconquer their cores too, and pretty much the entirety of the Balkans is just gonna be a reconquest. And of course there are a ton of nations you could pop out in Anatolia as well to use them for reconquest, so it's gonna be super easy fighting the Ottomans once you beat them up in the initial war. You could even feed Poland some stuff up here, you could feed Lithuania some stuff over here and over here, or you could take that for yourself. It's pretty much up to you. But you will want to establish dominance eventually in the Ragusa trade node, so you will have a bigger hold over Pest and Constantinople and push everything to Pest. You can move your main trade node to Venice if you plan on expanding over in Italy, and it's pretty much your choice. Of course, during all of this time with all that extra income, you should have been building a ton of buildings. I have constructed marketplaces on all the center of trade provinces. I have built a bunch of production buildings in all the high value trade good provinces, and I do have a bunch of churches, mainly for that mission that we needed to kickstart that branch of the mission tree. And of course, you will continue doing the same later on. You should continue upgrading all your centers of trade. You should continue stating everything. Like I said earlier, I guess I don't mention that enough, but you should keep lowering autonomy everywhere that you can, and you will continue to be unstoppable. Hungary's mission tree is definitely very nice, so you should keep following it, but make sure to read the missions carefully and do the requirements in the best way possible. For this mission, you do need to enforce a PU over Bohemia to get the event membership in the Empire. Then Austria is weakened, then you get a restoration of Union CB on them, and then there's a bunch of other wonderful stuff that you can take over from all the missions once you complete them. Like I said earlier, for our first idea group, we went with aristocratic ideas to lean into the whole cavalry thing, and the other stuff is also very nice as well. Then we took diplomatic ideas for our second idea group. Maybe you have gone with influence, in which case that's totally fine. For your third idea group, I recommend another mill one, either quality to buff up your army quality, cap combat ability even more, or offensive for awesome generals and other good bonuses that it offers. So offensive or quality for your third idea group, and for your fourth idea group, I recommend taking something like economic or trade, to be honest. You don't need religious, you don't need humanist, because Hungary's final national idea is create the Estates General, where we don't suffer any penalties from heretic and heathen provinces, so you don't need to convert anything, even though you should have been converting a bit by now. Basically, these Orthodox provinces over here, just to increase religious unity a bit. Although later, once you unlock all of these, that won't be a problem at all. You don't need religious, you don't need humanist. So aristocratic, diplomatic, quality or offensive, and then economic or trade. After that, it's pretty much up to you, and you can do whatever you want, because you will be unstoppable. For your tier 4 government reform, you should of course take meritocratic recruitment. For tier 5, you should take general estates. Swap to royal decree when absolutism comes around. If you max out over 100 absolutism, swap back to general estates. For tier 6, you should take l'état c'est moi, and for tier 7, you should take political absolutism. But if you max out over 100 absolutism, just like with this one, then you should take legislative houses. For admin possible policies, you'll have 4 instead of 3. Of course, that depends on what idea groups you take, and you may not even need that. And like I said, by around the 1490s, your game should look a little something like this. If you're not that confident in your abilities, or if you're not sure if your game is gonna go like mine, this save file is available for all YouTube members in the Save Games Discord channel, and you can continue playing as Hungary from this date forward. Let me know in the comments below what's the next nation that I should do a guide on. If you want to watch me do stuff like this live, you should follow me on twitch.tv/theredhawklive, and if you want to catch up on stuff from over there, you can subscribe to the second channel. Link is in the description description. If you enjoyed this video, don't hesitate to leave a like, it really helps out a lot, and if you want to see more guides or more EU4 videos in general, definitely hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on anything. And you can become a member today and join the Discord, the link is in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time with another EU4 video.